And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, October 16th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the chat and click on the Super Chat button to create a Super Chat of any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. I will acknowledge it, and it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk more about the Davante Adams trade, and does that make the Jets a playoff contender? What's the impact of this trade? How does this impact the Jets? We'll get into that in just a second. We'll also talk about another trade that went down yesterday, Amari Cooper being sent over to the Buffalo Bills from the Cleveland Browns, and we'll talk about the impact of that trade. We'll also talk about the news that broke about Russell Wilson. Looks like he's going to be starting for the Steelers on Sunday against the Jets. So we'll get into that, and I'll give you my thoughts on that move. Then we'll talk about the Packers-Cardinals game, how the Packers performed in that game. Jordan Love played really well, so we'll get into that. And then we'll get into my power rankings after Week 6. I know we didn't do them last week because I was sick, but we'll get into them. We'll do my top 5 teams after Week 6. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Davante Adams and the Jets, and more about this trade. So I did touch upon it yesterday, of course, when the news broke. And look, for me, I had the Jets winning the AFC East. Now, right now, that does not look good. Okay, it doesn't seem like that is going to happen. Now, the Jets are 2-4, and by no means are they out of it. They're not. But they got to start winning games. And, when they were 2-1, you felt good about them, even though they beat the Patriots, they beat the Titans, and those are two of the worst teams in football right now. But, you kind of look at the games that they've lost since then, and, they've beaten themselves. They definitely, in my opinion, if, Zerline makes a couple of field goals in the Broncos game, that's a win. And then, of course, the other night, they should have won against the Bills. I feel like against the Vikings, they were playing from behind a lot. They could have won that game despite Rodgers throwing 3 picks. But really, for me, the Bills and Broncos games, they should have won those games. And you'd be looking at, right now, 4-2. So, but this trade that the Jets made, look, it gives Aaron Rodgers another weapon. And I don't understand why people are like, oh, Davante Adams, he's a receiver that's past his prime. And look, I mean, I guess you could say he's past his prime, but Davante Adams is still really good. He's 2 years removed from, posting 1,000 yards with Derek Carr. He had 1,000 yards last year. It's not like Davante Adams has fallen off a cliff. Again, yes, he's getting older, but I still think Davante Adams has got a lot of good football left in him. And now he's playing with the guy that he's very familiar with in a system that, Rodgers made his appearance on the Pat McAfee show, and Davante was with him. And, Davante talked about how, there's going to be some new things that he's going to have to learn, but, same cadences, and he said it's the same OG. That's his words, not mine. So they're going to be okay. I expect Rodgers and Davante to really, recapture what they did in Green Bay. Again, it's going to be different. Maybe it's not going to be as good because, again, these two guys are older, but I still think they're going to be good. And, it's only going to make this offense better, in my opinion. They started to run the football better. Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson both had good games. A lot of the attention for defenses is going to go to Davante. So that's going to open up opportunities for Garrett Wilson in one-on-one situations. But, I mean, you do kind of worry that, Rodgers is just going to completely forget about Garrett Wilson and, he's just going to target Davante Adams a bunch of times. But look, you look at that trio of receivers, it's really good. It's really good. And Tyler Conklin's not a bad tight end. The biggest thing for me is the offensive line has to protect Rodgers, which it has not done a great job these last couple weeks. And all it takes is one hit, and that's it. So the Jets have to protect Aaron Rodgers. The offense played probably its best game of the year. Like I said, they were able to run the football. Allen Lazard was good. Garrett Wilson was good. Rodgers was good. But they have to protect Rodgers. Now, back to actually before that, I just wanted to go through some stats about Davante Adams and Rodgers. So, when it comes to these two guys, of course, when it comes to passing yards, 7,529 passing yards from Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams, which is first. Passing touchdowns, 68 from Aaron Rodgers. Completions, 615. Targets, 907. This is something that ESPN posted. Davante Adams has been the most productive target for Aaron Rodgers throughout his career. This is something that, like I said, SportsCenter posted on their Instagram. They were really special together. And I think, like I said, they're going to be good once again. Might not be as good as it was in Green Bay, but I think this duo is going to do well together. But now, does this make them playoff contenders? You know what? I still think they are playoff contenders. I don't see at this point. I don't know if they're good enough to win the division, because against Buffalo, you had the opportunity to be in first place had you won that game, and they didn't win. So now, if you're going to want to even everything up with Buffalo, you're going to have to win in Buffalo, which is going to be very tough, and the Jets have not been able to do that in recent years. But the Jets, they have a doable schedule. They do have some tough games remaining, of course, in Buffalo. You still haven't played Miami yet, and you figure Tua's going to be back for those games, so that's going to make it tough. But looking at the Jets' schedule, so they got the Steelers on Sunday night, which I think is a very winnable game, in my opinion. Some people think it's not. I think it is. Look, the Steelers, offensively they struggle a little bit. Defensively, there's some cracks in that defense with guys being out. And now they're making a quarterback change, and we'll see how that pans out for them. But I think the Jets can win that game. Then they're at the Patriots against the rookie quarterback. They should win that game. Home against Houston is going to be tough on Thursday night. That's on Halloween. That's going to be a tough game. If you remember last year in that bad weather game, Zach Wilson and the Jets, they destroyed the Texans. Now, this is a different Texans team. They can run the football better. We'll see. I don't think Nico Collins will be ready for this game because he's been placed on IR, but maybe he's back. I don't know. But you still got to deal with Diggs and Tank Dell. CJ Stroud's playing well this year. So that's a tough game. Then at the Cardinals. Cardinals aren't very good. Home against the Colts. The Colts are, that could still be a tough game. With Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson can make plays, but Jets can win that. Then you go into the bye. Home against the Seahawks, at the Dolphins, at the Jags, home against the Rams, at the Bills, and then home against the Dolphins. I do see some wins in there. So, I think the Jets can still find a way into the playoffs. But again, they're going to have to win games. The main problem, two main things. The defense is not as good as it was last year, and the penalties. The penalties killed the Jets on Monday. That is something that they have to clean up. If they don't clean that up, it's not going to matter. That's at least one thing they could clean up. The defense is going to be tougher because, you let go of some rotational players on the defense, and it's had more of an impact on the defense than people realize. You're seeing guys like Ray Davis go off against this team. There was no James Cook, and the Bills still found a way to run the ball. And even go back to week 1. Now, I know he's been good, but Jordan Mason, I didn't expect Jordan Mason to go off like he did in week 1, and the Jets' run defense got shredded. The Broncos found some success running the football against them late in their game. The run defense has been a problem for the Jets. And that's something I don't know if they're going to be able to correct. The defense has to play better. The defense was supposed to be the strength of the team. Like Rodgers comes in, you're not expecting Rodgers to have to go out there and play at an MVP type level every game because you're backed by this good defense and a good running game. But that really hasn't been the case this year. The defense has been hit or miss. They've had some good games. Like they played well against the Vikings, and they played good enough where the Jets should have beat the Broncos. But, they could have lost to the Titans. They got destroyed by the Niners. And, Josh Allen in that offense, carved them up at certain points in the game on Monday. So the defense has to be better. And the penalties. And at least one of those things I think can be corrected, which is the penalties. Be more disciplined. But the defense, I don't know what they can do. Because now they got Hassan Reddick. They told him he could seek a trade. So he really isn't going to be a factor. Hasn't been a factor all year. You already lost Jermaine Johnson for the season. So, you're kind of short-handed right now. I don't know. I still do think they could find a way in. The problem is you're putting more pressure on your offense to basically, Rodgers has to play at an MVP type level. And listen, I don't think I think he's capable of playing well. We've seen it. We've seen the flashes. I mean, it's been more than flashes. I thought he played well on Monday. The greatness is still there. The problem is, this isn't the Aaron Rodgers from 10 years ago. He's 40 years old now. Got to give him some help. And the defense has been, like I said, has been hit or miss. So, I do think this trade helps out the Jets a lot, but the Jets need more than just another receiver. They need help on the defense, and there needs to be accountability. There needs to be discipline, because the penalties, that was the main reason they lost. Braylon Allen has a walk-in touchdown. They would have went up by at least 6 if Zerline makes the extra point. And I said that on Monday or Tuesday, yesterday. If Braylon Allen scores, they go up by a touchdown. It's a whole different game. And also other things that people are pointing to. If Garrett Wilson holds on to that ball in the end zone where he got popped, changes things. If Jeremy Rutgert, if he holds on to that 3rd and 16 pass when he got popped, could be a different game. Or 2nd and 16, whatever I said. Yeah. It was a 16-yard pass play that should have been caught, but he dropped it because, he got popped, like I said. But penalties, you got to fix that. The defense, this is what you got. Unless you could beg Reddick to come in and help out this team, defense is a problem. But let me know what you guys think, though, about this trade. Again, it's a good trade for the Jets. Davante Adams is going to help, but the Jets have other issues that Davante Adams cannot help in. I guess penalties, not going to be a guy that's going to draw penalties, I guess, but just let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will talk about another trade that was made, and this was involving the Buffalo Bills trading for Amari Cooper. We'll talk about the impact of that trade when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.